Ah yes, the rarest skins in the game. Such a generic topic we've seen discussed many times over and over. I think it's also a pretty exhausted topic. There are so many skins in the game of which exist only one, but you wouldn't hear about most of them because it's more attractive to parade around the ones that have a high price tag. So, allow me to do the same, but put a different spin on it. What if we look at the most expensive skins for each grade that exists? In some cases, this might be obvious, but I believe it is worth discussing. As always, due to the difficulty and subjectiveness of prices that revolve around patterns, applied skins, and souvenir sticker placements, I will be looking at just the skins themselves as they are in FN condition, because that's always the most expensive. And even if prices change in the future due to market conditions, hardly would anything beat them due to their infamy or just rarity in general. Before we start, just know all prices shown are based on secondary market approximations. First grade we will look at is Contraband. Yes, there's the HAL stat track for around 12k in FN condition. I mean, look, it's a grade that exists, so I have to count it. Covert. The winner here is a little bit subjective due to pricing being very close. AK Wild Lotus, Op Gungnir, and Op Dragonlore. All three of these in FN condition hover around 12k. Closest to their price is 5k for the Op Medusa plus StatTrack AK Fire Serpent because of the float cap. Then for around 4k we have the Op Prince plus the Og Akihabara Accept. All of the other usual suspects go for between 3k and 2k. D-Lore is understandable why it costs so much, old, will likely never drop again, desirable, but the Wild Lotus and Gungnir, while also getting old and highly desirable, their supply is even lower than a D-Lore, because when they were dropping during Operation Shattered Web, the Battle Pass system was harder to milk for skins. Classified. The most expensive one here is the M4A1S Knight FN for approximately 3k. Closest to it are the other obvious suspects, Negev Mjolnir and MP9 Wild Lily for 2k. All of these skins are trade-ups for the coverts in the respective collection. Pretty obvious, though the M4 has that little bit of an edge in price because the weapon is viable in-game and that can matter to price. Closest to these is an FN AK Hydroponic for 1.7k, below it is the M4 Poseidon for around 1.2. Everything else is 1k or below, but I would like to point out the most bizarre expensive classified skin, Scar 20 Splash Jam FN. Old, float-capped, extremely rare, yet because of how niche it is, the price is very hard to determine concretely. Maybe it's 2k, maybe it's below or above, I don't know. Sales volume is so low. Restricted, Glock Fade, that's it, you already know, 1.5k. Next to it, we got the FN MP9 Bulldozer at 700, surprisingly more expensive than a Deagle Blaze, which is sitting at 570. Then close to it at 500, we have the Tech 9 Nuclear Threat. These have an iconic status, though I think the tech is a little bit less known. A couple of schmucks at 400, M4 Icarus fell because it's an M4, P250 Nuclear Threat is the same as the tech, and any of the three Jormungandr skins hold similar value due to being used in trade-ups. Then at 300 there are a lot more, but this would get tiresome, so let's move on. For Mil-spec, it's the one and only M4 Radiation Hazard for around 500 bucks. Nothing else really comes close. Being unobtainable, combined with a float capped and slapped on one of the most used weapons in the game is a perfect concoction. Though a contest in infamy would be the MP7 Whiteout at 400 bucks. Also float capped and kind of desirable, a bit rarer, but too bad it's an MP7. Though in the same price bracket we can put the Negev Anodized Navy plus Og Hot Rod because they are trade-up fodder for a Glock Fade. Industrial grade. From here, it might be downhill, but there's some interesting stuff. FN Galil Winter Forest. Float capped, low supply, yes, the typical statistics, but why is it 200 bucks? I don't know why, maybe some people really like it. The other light blue skins in the Office collection are only about 100 bucks. I understand it's because of trade-ups for the MP7 Whiteout, but that would only explain the low supply. I'm not entirely sure why their prices go so high in general. The only other that comes close is the Glock Sand Dune for 140, also float capped. Other notable skins are the P2K Grassland Leaves for 120 and the AK Jungle Spray for 100. Then there's a bunch of others between 50 to 100, but let's move on. Consumer grade. Well, unfortunately, we are yet to see a consumer grade skin surpass $100, maybe in another timeline. For now, the most expensive is FAMAS Contrast Spray for $70, or maybe the SSG Sand Dune for about the same price. Both, of course, float capped. Other than that, the XM Jungle goes for about 55, UMP Caramel for 50, and SG Tornado for about 40. There's a couple of skins below 40, and that again goes for old skins from collections that can be used as trade-up fodder, even if they are float-capped. Some of this stuff might have been predictable. At some point you start to see a pattern. Not every skin's price is high just because it's desirable. It all comes down to whether or not people want the higher tier skins, but don't want to pay the full price, so risking it with a trade-up contract is a solution. In turn, that decreases the supply and increases the value. Some are a bit low in my opinion, others are too expensive. The reason I don't believe any of these will be ever beaten is not just because of their age, but due to the circumstances of how they were dropping. Comes down to a combination of a short period, the game had a smaller player base, and the trading scene wasn't as well established as today. Alright, I have way too many napkins lying around from takeouts in various places, so I might have to start organizing them a little bit.